I am currently writing a book on contemporary Black church arson in Knoxville, Tennessee. But I was very curious about just some of the more recent context surrounding Black church arson in the United States in the post-civil rights era. So the Burned Churches Project, which was a part of the National Council of Churches, seemed like a very important archival resource to think about how religious institutions and organizations and ecumenical structures really pooled resources to support Black churches. And it seems like a very interesting counterpoint to some of the other kinds of archives that exist, for instance, like FBI, right? We tend to think about, I think, Black church arson as a hate crime, but what other archival sources speak to that kind of phenomenon as well? For my first foray into an archive for my work, one of the things that I think is so valuable about this archive, and I'm looking at arsons today that have taken place in the 1990s, is that sometimes our public attention span is short. And so the fact that I can learn more detailed information about these arson events in the 90s, right, that, you know, for the best of my abilities, sometimes journalistic sources, they're briefer, and human, I think just really broader society interest has sort of moves on, right? There's an event, a violent event, there's a quick response, and then there seems to be a kind of forgetting. So I think archives are really important because of this sort of shortened attention span, sometimes the quick media cycle turnover that can take our attention elsewhere, especially for problems like these that are still happening. Black churches are still being burned. These are problems that still require our sustained and slow attention. The other thing that I noticed, and this was it was just this tiny detail. It was a letter. The first file I opened was set in an arson in Alabama in the 90s, and there's a letter from a pastor to the director of the Burned Churches Project, and just seeing his script, cursive, right, and punctuation, grammar. He ended the letters with "Be sweet." That kind of personal touch, right? I think that we can maybe see church arson as an event or a thing that happens to people we don't know. Seeing those human touches was like these in the archive has been really emotional for me. Very inspiring that someone can have gone through an arson, is in the midst of rebuilding his church with his community, and that's how he, ends the letter, right? It's just a testament to the human spirit as well, and you can't get that sometimes in a media report, right? Seeing someone's own words in their own script written by their own hand with their own affect, right? It's also been really beautiful, and I think a really great resource, I think, not only for researchers, but I can imagine really talking with my students, sharing a letter with them and reminding them that these things happen to real people, everyday people. And so that's another thing that I think is so beautiful about the archive, right? That it has these really beautiful human touches, people's words written in their own hands.